Rain fell hard on the empty road, turning the night into a blur of silver lines and dark shadows. The streetlights flickered, weak and tired, as a small, old car moved slowly through the storm. Inside the car sat Daniel, a single father in his mid-30s, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. His eyes were heavy, not from sleep, but from a long day of work and a longer life of struggle. In the back seat, his young son Leo slept with his head against the window. His breath fogged the glass, and every few seconds the car shook as thunder rolled across the sky. Daniel checked the mirror again and again, making sure his son was warm and safe. That was always his first thought. It had been that way since the night his wife never came home from the hospital. Daniel worked 2 jobs, one during the day, one at night. That evening, he had finished late. His shoes were wet, his jacket thin, and his wallet almost empty. All he wanted was to reach their small apartment, make a simple meal, and sleep for a few hours before morning came again. The road he took was quiet, far from the city. Most people avoided it at night, especially when it rained like this. Daniel usually avoided it too, but tonight it was the fastest way home. Or so he thought. As the car moved forward, his headlights caught something strange ahead. A shape, dark, still. At first, he thought it was a fallen tree. Then the light shifted, and he saw metal. A car, a large, expensive car, stopped at a sharp angle near the road. Daniel slowed down. His heart beat faster. Accidents on this road were not rare. Neither were robberies. He looked at his son in the mirror. Leo did not move. Daniel told himself to keep driving. But as he passed the car, a sound cut through the rain. A low sound, weak, almost lost in the storm. It was a voice. Help! Daniel's foot lifted from the gas. The word echoed in his head. He drove a few meters ahead, then stopped. His hands shook. He knew what this meant. Stopping meant risk. Stopping meant danger. He had heard stories. He had seen the news. He looked back again. Leo was still sleeping. Small, trusting, depending on him. Daniel whispered to himself, "Just go home." But his body did not listen. He turned the wheel and pulled over. Rain soaked in the moment he stepped out. The cold bit his skin. He walked toward the damaged car, each step heavy with fear. The door was open. Inside, a man lay slumped over the seat. Blood ran down his forehead, mixing with rain and glass. The man was breathing but barely. Daniel swallowed hard. He had no medical training, no phone battery, no help nearby. For one long second, he stood there frozen. Then the man opened his eyes just a little. "Please," the man whispered. "Don't leave." Something broke inside Daniel. He thought of nights when he had begged life to be kinder. He thought of Leo and the world he wanted for him. Daniel ran back to his car and opened the back door. Leo stirred. His eyes opened. "Papa," Leo said softly. Daniel forced a calm smile. "It's okay. Go back to sleep." Leo looked past him toward the dark road. "What's wrong?" "There's a man who needs help," Daniel said. Leo nodded, as if he understood more than his age allowed. Daniel went back to the injured man. With effort and pain, he pulled him free and helped him into the front seat of his own car. Blood stained the seat. Rain soaked everything. Daniel did not care. As he started the engine, his hands trembled. He did not know who the man was. He did not know what would happen next. All he knew was that this night, on this lonely road, a single decision had already begun to change everything. Daniel looked at the road ahead, unaware that this choice would pull his small family into a future he never imagined that very night. Daniel drove through the rain with tight focus, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. The injured man groaned softly in the front seat, his head falling to one side. Leo sat quietly in the back, holding his small backpack close, watching his father with wide eyes. The storm grew louder, as if the sky itself was warning them to turn back. Daniel followed the old signs toward the nearest hospital. The road felt endless. Every red light felt cruel. The man's breathing became uneven, and Daniel feared each breath might be his last. He spoke gently, hoping his voice would keep the man awake. He said simple words, words meant to hold life together. At last, the hospital lights appeared through the rain. Daniel parked fast and ran inside for help. Nurses rushed out with a stretcher. Questions came quickly, sharp and cold. Who was the man? What happened? Did Daniel know him? Daniel answered honestly. He knew nothing. He had only stopped to help. The staff moved the man inside. Blood marked the floor behind them. Daniel stood there, soaked and shaking, holding Leo's hand. A nurse asked for payment details. Daniel's heart sank. He explained his situation in a low voice. The nurse looked tired but kind. She said emergency care would begin, but costs would come later. Daniel sat in the waiting area on a hard chair. Leo leaned against him and soon fell asleep again. Time passed slowly. Every sound made Daniel look up. He prayed quietly, not for reward, not for praise, only that the man would live. Hours later, a doctor came out. His face was serious. He said the injuries were severe. The man had lost much blood. Surgery was needed. Daniel nodded, though fear twisted his chest. The doctor asked if Daniel could sign as the contact person. Daniel hesitated, then agreed. It felt strange to hold responsibility for a stranger's life. During the long wait, Daniel's phone died completely. He watched rain slide down the windows. He thought of his wife and the night he lost her. He remembered the feeling of helpless waiting. He felt it again now, heavy and familiar. Near morning, the doctor returned. The surgery was successful, but the man was still unconscious. Daniel felt his knees weaken with relief. Leo woke and smiled when he saw his father's face soften. Later that day, 2 police officers arrived. They asked Daniel to explain everything from the start. His words came slow, careful. The officers listened closely. They looked at each other, then at Daniel. One officer said the damaged car belonged to a very important person. Daniel felt his stomach drop. Whispers moved through the hallway. Nurses walked faster. Fullness hung. Daniel noticed a change in the air. He felt small, out of place, and suddenly afraid. He worried he had done something wrong by helping. A nurse returned and spoke softly. She asked Daniel to wait. She said the man's family would arrive soon. Daniel stood up, ready to leave quietly. He did not want attention. He only wanted to go home. Just then, a hand moved inside the recovery room. Machines beeped faster. The injured man stirred, pulling himself slowly toward awareness, as the world around Daniel began to shift in ways he could not yet understand. Daniel felt a deep weight on his chest as he waited. He watched people pass, each carrying their own story, their own worry. He wondered how one choice could pull a person into another life so fast. Leo held his finger, warm and trusting. Daniel promised himself that no matter what came next, he would protect his son. He thought about bills, work, and the fragile balance of their days. He feared judgment, blame, and questions he could not answer. Still, he felt a quiet strength grow inside him. He had done what felt right. Outside, the rain began to slow, tapping softer on the windows, as if the night itself was finally listening. The hallway lights hummed gently, and Daniel took a slow breath, unaware that the next moments would change his future and test his courage in ways he never expected forever onward. Morning light slipped through the hospital windows, pale and quiet. Daniel sat upright, his back stiff from the long night. Leo rested against his side, awake now, watching people pass with curious eyes. The storm was gone, but a heavy feeling still filled the air. Daniel felt as if he stood on the edge of something unseen, waiting for it to move. Footsteps approached. A nurse stopped in front of him and asked him to follow. Daniel stood slowly, holding Leo's hand. They walked down a clean white hallway toward the recovery room. Machines hummed softly behind closed doors. Daniel's heart beat harder with every step. Inside the room, the injured man lay still, connected to wires and screens. His face looked calmer now, less pale than before. Slowly, his eyes opened. They searched the room, confused, then settled on Daniel. For a moment, neither spoke. The man tried to move. Daniel stepped closer and gently told him to stay still. The man's voice was weak, but clear enough. He asked where he was. Daniel explained simply. Hospital. Accident. Surgery. The man closed his eyes, breathing deeply. When he opened them again, he looked directly at Daniel. He asked, "Did you stop for me?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." The man swallowed, his eyes filled with emotion. "You saved my life." Daniel felt uncomfortable with the words. He shook his head. Anyone would have done the same. But the man slowly shook his head back. No, many would not. Before Daniel could reply, the door opened again. Several people entered the room. A doctor, two men in dark suits, a woman with worried eyes. The room felt smaller suddenly. The woman rushed to the bedside, holding the man's hand, tears falling freely. One of the men in suits turned to Daniel. His tone was polite but firm. He asked Daniel who he was. Daniel answered honestly. A single father, a worker, just someone passing by. The man's eyes widened slightly. He whispered something to the woman. She looked at Daniel with surprise, then gratitude. She thanked him again and again, her voice shaking. Daniel shifted his weight, unsure what to do. He did not belong in this room. He picked up Leo and took a small step back. He said he was glad the man was alive and that he should go. But the injured man reached out. His hand trembled as it grabbed Daniel's sleeve. "Please," he said, "do not leave yet." Daniel froze. Everyone in the room watched him. The man took a slow breath. "My name is Victor," he said. "I owe you more than words." One of the suited men cleared his throat and spoke quietly. Victor was not just anyone. He was a powerful businessman, a millionaire. His name was known across the city and beyond. Daniel felt the room spin. He had rescued a stranger, not a legend. Fear rose inside him. He worried about trouble, about questions, about blame. He tightened his hold on Leo. Victor seemed to sense his fear. "You are safe," he said softly. "You did the right thing." Hours passed with tests and quiet conversations. Daniel stayed, sitting near the door. Leo played with a paper cup on the floor. Reporters gathered outside, but security kept them away. Still, whispers spread. At last, Victor rested again. The doctor said he would recover. The woman smiled through tears. She told Daniel their family would never forget what he had done. Daniel nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought of rent, work, school mornings, and simple meals. This world felt far from his own. As he prepared to leave, Victor opened his eyes once more. "I want to see you again," he said. "This is not the end." Daniel walked out with his son into the bright hallway, unaware that the quiet life he knew had already begun to change in ways he could not escape. Days passed quietly after the accident, yet Daniel felt restless inside. He returned to work, cleaned offices at night, and cooked simple meals for Leo. Life looked the same on the surface, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the hospital room and Victor's tired eyes each night alone again. He told no one about what happened, not even his closest coworker. Leo asked questions, but Daniel answered softly, unsure himself. One evening, a black car stopped outside their building, shining under streetlights, waiting silently as Daniel froze near the door with sudden fear in his chest, heart pounding hard. A tall driver stepped out and spoke his name with respect. Daniel's hands shook as he listened. The message was simple but heavy. Victor wished to see him again. Transportation was ready. No pressure was given, yet the invitation felt impossible to refuse that night after work, quietly waiting patiently. Daniel agreed after hours of thought. The next day, he wore his cleanest shirt and held Leo's hand tightly. They entered a bright office tower, far from their world. Polished floors reflected fear on Daniel's face as elevators carried them upward slowly into quiet rooms filled with light and silence. Victor waited by the window, standing carefully, stronger now. He smiled when he saw Leo. The meeting felt gentle, not powerful. Victor thanked Daniel again, this time with stories of loneliness, long workdays, and regret that money never filled the empty rooms inside his life, quiet nights, missed moments alone. Daniel listened without judgment. He shared his own pain, the loss of his wife, the fear of failing his son. The room softened. Leo climbed onto Victor's lap, innocent and trusting, and Victor laughed for the first time in months, a sound warm and surprised, filling the quiet office space. Victor made no promises that day. Instead, he offered help slowly, carefully, a stable job suggestion, education support for Leo. Daniel hesitated, pride and fear mixing together. He had learned that gifts often came with strings attached from past experiences, broken hopes, silent disappointments, nights unpaid, bills, waiting, worrying alone. Victor understood and did not push. He simply said the door would stay open. As Daniel left, security guards nodded respectfully. Outside, sunlight felt different. Leo asked if their lives would change now. Daniel said he did not know, but felt something new growing inside him. Hope mixed with caution. Days turned into weeks. Daniel accepted temporary work at Victor's company. He still rode the bus and packed lunches, but his shoulders felt lighter. Leo smiled more, dreaming bigger dreams, while Daniel watched carefully, protecting their fragile happiness from sudden changes, fast promises, loud attention, eyes, waiting, judging, silently, nearby. One evening, Daniel received a letter instead of call. It thanked him again, this time for trust. It spoke of second chances and steady steps. Daniel folded it carefully, realizing respect mattered more than money ever could to him. His son, their quiet home, future, stability, peace, slowly earned. Late at night, Daniel stood by the window, remembering the rain. He wondered how one stop changed so much. The world still felt uncertain, but fear no longer ruled him. Choice had given him courage he never knew existed inside before, waiting quietly, patient, strong, ready for tomorrow, again now. Leo slept peacefully, holding a small toy car. Daniel covered him gently. He knew challenges would return, but he also knew kindness had power. Somewhere, Victor healed. Somewhere else, a future slowly opened its doors to possibility. Growth, shared journeys, unexpected friendships, lessons learned together over time with care, hope. The rescue was no longer just an accident. It became a turning point. Daniel felt it in small moments, calm mornings, steady work, shared meals. He had not saved a man only. He had saved himself too from despair, doubt, loneliness, heavy nights, endless worry, quiet fear, alone again before. Though uncertain paths remained ahead, Daniel welcomed them differently now. He understood that courage often begins quietly on dark roads in rain. And sometimes, helping a stranger gently leads a person home to hope, purpose, strength, love, healing, growth, and unexpected light, found within the ordinary moments of life ahead. The real test came when comfort began to replace struggle. Daniel noticed the change slowly. His work hours became steady. His pay arrived on time. Leo started school with clean clothes and new books. Life felt lighter, but also unfamiliar. Daniel worried that ease might disappear as quickly as arrived. Victor kept his distance at first. He never acted like a savior. He spoke to Daniel as an equal, asking opinions, listening carefully. This made Daniel trust him more. Still, Daniel guarded his heart. He had learned that promises could break without warning. One afternoon, Daniel was called into Victor's office. The room felt calmer than before. Victor looked healthier now, standing strong, his voice steady. He spoke directly. He said Daniel had shown honesty, courage, and responsibility. These qualities mattered more than any degree. Victor offered Daniel a permanent position. Not charity, real work, training included, growth possible. The salary was more than Daniel had ever earned. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He thought of nights counting coins, choosing food over heating, and smiling so Leo would not feel fear. Daniel asked one question. Why me? Victor answered without pause. Because you stopped when others would not. Daniel asked for time. That night, he walked the streets alone. He feared change. He feared failing again. He feared becoming dependent. But he also feared staying trapped by fear itself. He returned home and watched Leo sleep, peaceful and hopeful. The next morning, Daniel accepted. Training was difficult. He made mistakes. He felt small among confident people. Some coworkers judged him silently. Others helped quietly. Daniel worked harder than ever, arriving early, leaving late. He wanted to prove he belonged there. Weeks passed. Daniel learned fast. His confidence grew. He started believing in his own worth. Leo noticed the change first. His father smiled more. He spoke with strength. He planned ahead. One evening, Victor invited Daniel and Leo to dinner. The table was large, but the mood was warm. They shared simple stories, laughter, and quiet understanding. Victor spoke of regrets. Daniel spoke of dreams. Leo spoke of becoming someone kind. Victor listened. Later that night, Victor told Daniel something personal. The accident had changed him too. He realized life could end suddenly. Success meant little without meaning. Daniel's choice on that rainy road reminded him of values he had forgotten. Victor did not want repayment. He wanted connection. He wanted to build something that mattered. Daniel understood. Their bond was not based on money, but respect. Challenges still came. Old debts surfaced. Stress returned at times. But Daniel faced them differently now. He asked for help when needed. He learned to trust without losing himself. Months later, Daniel received another offer. Education support. Growth path. Not for show, but for long-term stability. Daniel accepted with gratitude, not shame. Leo stood taller. His schoolwork improved. His laughter filled the home. Daniel realized that hope was no longer fragile. It was rooted. One night, rain returned. Daniel stood by the window, watching lights reflect on wet roads. He remembered the broken car, the wounded stranger, the choice that changed everything. He knew life was still uncertain, but he also knew something powerful now lived inside him. Courage, purpose, belief. The rescue had saved more than one life. It had rebuilt one. And as Daniel closed the window and turned off the lights, he understood that sometimes the greatest reward for doing right is becoming someone stronger than you were before. Years later, Daniel often thought about how quiet moments could change loud futures. His life no longer felt like a constant race. Mornings began with sunlight, not worry. He woke early, made breakfast, and walked Leo to school. They talked about simple things like homework, weather, and dreams. Daniel still worked hard, but now his work carried purpose instead of fear. He had earned respect slowly, through effort, patience, and honesty. People trusted him. More importantly, he trusted himself. Victor remained part of their lives, but never as a shadow or a ruler. He visited on weekends sometimes, bringing stories, not gifts. He listened to Leo talk about school and smiled proudly. The boy reminded him of something pure he once lost. Victor's health fully returned, but his heart stayed changed. He chose balance over endless work and learned to value people over numbers. He often said the accident saved him twice, once in body, once in spirit. Daniel never forgot where he came from. He volunteered quietly, helping others without cameras or praise. He taught Leo that kindness should not wait for reward. When asked about success, Daniel spoke about choices, not luck. He explained that strength grows when fear is faced, not avoided. Leo listened carefully, learning lessons no classroom could teach. One evening, rain fell again, soft and steady. Daniel drove the same road, now repaired and bright. He slowed for a moment, remembering the past. He pulled over and stepped outside, letting the rain touch his face. He felt no fear this time, only gratitude. He whispered thanks to the night that tested him and to the courage that answered. Back home, Leo was waiting with homework spread across the table. They worked together, laughing at mistakes. Daniel saw the future in his son's confidence. Not wealth, but wisdom. Not power, but compassion. He knew this was the true reward. As years passed, Daniel rose further in his career, but never lost humility. He trained others who felt lost, giving them chances once given to him. Victor supported these efforts quietly. Together, they built programs focused on growth, not charity. They believed dignity mattered more than handouts. Leo grew into a thoughtful young man. He remembered the story of the rainy night clearly. It shaped his values. He chose to study medicine, inspired by the fragile line between life and loss. Daniel supported him with pride, knowing the cycle of kindness was continuing. On the day Leo graduated, Daniel stood in the crowd, eyes full. Victor stood beside him. Neither spoke. They shared a silent understanding. One choice had connected their lives forever, not through debt, but through meaning. That night, Daniel returned home alone. He sat quietly, holding an old photo of Leo as a child. He reflected on the road, the rain, the stranger. He realized that life does not change in grand moments alone, but in simple decisions made with courage. Daniel smiled softly. He had once saved a life. In doing so, he found his own, and as the night passed gently outside his window, he felt peace, knowing that even ordinary people can create extraordinary change by choosing to stop, to care, and to act when it matters most.